In this video, I will answer two important questions about note-taking. How do you take effective notes, and when should you take notes? The answer to the latter is going to really surprise you. So stay tuned to find out how to learn more using effective note-taking. During class, students try to do 4 things simultaneously. Listen to the teacher, read what the teacher writes, learn something, and take notes. The problem is that unless you know a lot about the topic already, trying to do all of these at the same time is going to overwhelm your working memory. You will have cognitive overload. Most students have experienced this. If they spend time deeply processing what the teacher is presenting, then they get behind in their note-taking. On the other hand, if they copy everything the teacher writes and says, then they don't have time in class for actual learning. So, which option is better? The problem with focusing on taking good notes in class is that it means you're delaying the learning until later. If you are doing that in lots of classes and you have assignments and extracurricular activity and tests, then you won't have time to do all of the learning. You will start getting behind, and that results in cramming. On the other hand, if you can learn even 50% of the content in class, then you won't have to spend that time later learning the material on your own. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't take notes. There's lots of evidence that shows taking notes can help you encode the information and is a useful study aid later. What I am saying, and this is the surprising part, is that a lot of your note-taking should happen before class and after class, not during class. Now, you probably think I'm crazy, but wait and hear me out. The PER method is very effective. PER stands for prepare, record, and review. We start with prepare. To prepare, I recommend using the Cornell note-taking method template. At the top, we put the topic and date to help keep the notes organized. We then make the Q column along the left-hand side. We will fill this part in during the prepare phase. Next to the Q column, we have the notes column. This is what you will fill in during class. Finally, at the bottom, leave a little bit of room for the summary, which you will complete after class. Keep in mind that you are not trying to write a textbook. You are trying to create an effective study aid. Before class, you should quickly skim the content using whatever course resources are available. In the Q's column, list headings, keywords, and any questions you want to know the answer of. Let me demonstrate this with a couple of examples. First, an example from mathematics. Skimming quickly through the content to be covered, in the Q column, write down all the keywords. These can be headings, bold-faced words, etc. Additionally, add questions you want to know the answers to by the end of the lecture. Here is an example of what the prepared template could look like for a psychology class. Observe that they have included headings, keywords, and a couple of questions they will listen for the answers to during the lesson. This will not only make it much easier and faster for you to take notes in class, but you will have prepared your brain to look for those key pieces of information. The first R in PER is for record. Because you have already organized and prepared a lot of what you will write down, taking notes will be easier than ever. My general rule of thumb is that you should spend at most 10% of class time taking notes. I also highly recommend using abbreviations as much as possible and using pen and paper instead of a laptop. You should only be writing down key pieces of information. Do not try to write down everything the instructor says or writes on the board. You can also include questions you have about the content. This could be about something you didn't understand or about how the content might relate to something else. For examples or exercises in class, I only write down the question, never the solution. This way, I can test my memory on these after class. Whenever the instructor is teaching a skill or demonstrating a thought process, you should not be taking notes. For example, in math class, you should never take notes when the instructor is solving a problem. Instead, you should be focusing on understanding every step and the thought process involved. Of course, always ask questions about any part that you don't understand. There are exceptions to these guidelines. For example, you should write down everything your instructor tells you to write down, and you should take more notes if there are no other sources for the course content. Here is the example from psychology. In addition to adding in definitions and answering the questions, they added additional key points. Also, notice how they asked themselves additional questions in the notes about how the concepts relate to their other courses. The final R in PER is for review. As soon as possible after class, do a brain dump. That is, close your notes, take out a blank piece of paper, and write down everything you can from the lecture. Note, you can copy out the statement of examples and exercises before you close your notes so that you can see if you can solve them during your brain dump. Next, review your notes and course materials and try to learn any pieces that you missed. Finally, write the lecture summary. This should just be a couple of sentences about the key points of the lecture. The PER method will increase how helpful your notes are and, more importantly, how much of class time you can spend actually learning. What could be better? Give it a try. I hope you have enjoyed this video. To learn more, see these other informative videos. Thanks for watching!